Welcome to the Future of Real Estate. I'm Daryl Baskin of the Baskin Real Estate Specialists at eXp Realty. You can hear us Saturdays on KRMG at 1 o'clock, and we have a special program for you today here on the live stream. And we've got, when is it, June 26th, the election for our new Tulsa County Assessor. We've had the same one for, I don't know how long.
16 years, I believe.
16 years. So well over a decade, and it's going to be a change. So who's that going to be? And we're here to talk to Byron Burke, one of the candidates, to learn more about him. So Byron, welcome.
Thank you.
To Grandma's Studio, by the way.
Thanks. I have pleasure to be here.
Affinity for old furniture, so I call it Grandma's Studio. Tell me about your family. Where you come from? And
well, I grew up in Tulsa. Was a Edison '69 grad. There were three guys in my family. I have two older brothers. We're all, were born and raised here. My grandparents came here in the 20s, and I have three children, two Eagle Scout sons, and the baby of the family is a teacher in the union.
That says a lot to get them through Eagle Scouts.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a good time. I didn't get to do that as a kid, but I got to do it as an adult. It was a lot of fun.
So not many people can say that they're from Tulsa. I mean, born and raised here. Many of us were transplants.
Yeah, and I'm pleased that most of my family has stayed in Tulsa. We had one of our relatives recently moved to Nashville. We were sad to see her go, but my sons grew up here and have decided to stay. And Claire, although she lives in Wagner County, is in Tulsa a lot and works in, like I said, in the Union District at Grove Elementary.
Well, one of my questions to ask was what brought you to Tulsa, but you were already here. But you've worked all over the country, and
yes.
You've chosen to stay here. Tell me about that.
Well, yeah, Tulsa was always my base. I graduated from Oklahoma University, and I took a job actually in the assessor's office in the early 70s. This property tax assessment, I got bit by the bug, I guess. It became my career. And I left after several years of working in the assessor's office and opened
at what county?
In Tulsa County.
In Tulsa County,
yeah.
Okay.
So I was working in the early 70s on what was really the first reappraisal of Tulsa County. I had worked on that revaluation and moved up through commercial appraisal and eventually was the assistant assessor. I saw an opportunity to leave the assessor's office and open my own business, which I did 42 years ago. And so now I'm at a point where I'd like to give back to the community. And so I've sold my company to a large Dallas group who's opened their office here. And all my clients are now Ryan clients, and all my employees are Ryan employees, and I can step away and become more involved in the community.
So the assessor's job, I think, is a little confusing to people, the assessor versus the treasurer, et cetera. Explain the basic duties of the Tulsa County Assessor.
Well, the assessor's primary duty is to discover and assess all real and personal property that's located within the county.
Real meaning houses, real estate, as we call it, personal property, defining that?
We don't tax household personal property anymore, but in the case of business personal, this would be, say at the grocery store, this is the inventories,
Yeah.
this is the coolers and the cash registers.
You tax the refrigerators in my rental property.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, no, yes, on business personal we
Right.
would, yes.
Yeah, I pay that bill.
That's good. Some people don't. But a number of years ago, they exempted household personal property by raising our tax rate slightly to cover that tax. So now we don't have to pay a separate household personal, but you do pay tax on your home.
So aside from those basic duties, what's your personal philosophy of the operation or the function of the assessor's office?
Well, I always describe it as a calendar, and so January 1 of every year is like a snapshot. So the status of your property on January 1st is what it's supposed to be the valuation's supposed to reflect. Notices of value go out. There's an appeal process. People file appeals with the county assessor, go through an informal and possibly a formal appeal. If that can't be resolved, some end up in district court. Once the tax roll is finalized, or once the assessment roll is finalized, they run a tax roll. The equalization board, excise board meets and sets tax rates. And at the end of the year, the assessor turns the tax roll over to the treasurer, who simply collects it. So the whole process takes place in the assessor's office, with the collections actually being the duty of the county treasurer.
So what improvements do you think need to be made to the office?
Well, I'm troubled by the fact that so many properties have not gone through reappraisal in 10 and 15 years.
The law says that it's supposed to be reassessed or reappraised. Some, I guess, confusion to the public on what that actually means, but it has to be revalued. That's right. Every year?
It's supposed to be an annual reappraisal.
Okay.
There's supposed to be a visual inspection every 4 years. The assessor has the budget, they have the staff, and the current assessor's office has simply not completed that function countywide.
Now, why do you say that? What examples are there that people could reference and say, this is right?
Well, it's not hard to see. I mean, if you look in neighborhoods, particularly in South Tulsa, you'll find that there's a lot of properties that have the same valuation at this point that they had in 2004, 2005. And, that's a good deal for those property owners,
sure.
But everyone has to pay taxes. We have to fund our government. The problem is when someone buys a new home, they go on the tax roll the next year at that higher price.
We call it, when the law changed many years back, we called it the Welcome to Oklahoma law.
Well,
we stopped quoting taxes as realtors, as real estate professionals. The reason you don't see this as quoted anymore is whatever the taxes are currently are irrelevant because it's going to be reassessed when you purchase it.
It is, and many times these are increases 20, 30, 40%. I spent 5 years on the Tulsa County Excise Board, Equalization Board, so I was actually in a position to hear tax protest. And it was amazing to me how many people that came in, particularly from out of town, that were surprised by that. And, in some cases, people were barely qualifying for the home they bought, and then all of a sudden they had a $1,000 tax increase. And so that creates some situations where the information really needs to be made more readily available to buyers. What's going to happen.
Byron, what makes you uniquely qualified for the job of assessor?
Well, I'm the only candidate that has worked on, I'll say, both sides of the fence. I mean, I started my career in the assessor's office, moved up through that office and served everything from being the guy out measuring the homes around Eastland Mall in the 74 to being the appraiser to the Equalization Board to being the assistant to the assessor. Well, then so I got to see where the money is generated, where the values are generated. And then for the last 42 years, I've represented property owners throughout the country. This has given me the experience of seeing firsthand how other jurisdictions around the country administer the property tax. And I see things that are done much more professionally around the country, where the relationship with the taxpayers a lot less adversarial, and that they generate a tax stream to the tax recipients, such as the schools, that are much more reliable. So I'd like to take the best practices that I've witnessed around the country and bring them to Tulsa County.
So as a clarification, again, someone watching who's not familiar with this office, you don't set the tax rate. You, as an assessor, would set the percentage that each property owner would pay of the total tax bill for the county. Mm-hmm. By determining the property value they have. Is that a good way to state it?
I think, it's basically I would be the appraiser for the county for property, using the staff that's in the office, but to have a regular reappraisal program going to try to keep the values current. It's very important the values stay current, and we're talking about market values staying current. The taxable values can only increase on homesteaded residential by 3% a year. When so many properties haven't been reassessed for 10 and 12 years, those property values are way behind.
Which costs me more if mine was recently reassessed.
If you're a recent buyer, you're paying taxes on a rate that's artificially high. If all the values were kept current, which I think is the intent of the law, then the tax rates would float down. Now there's two types of rates. One floats and one's fixed. The floating rate would be for bonded indebtedness, like the city sinking fund. So the more value you have on the tax roll, the lower that rate. Some of the other rates are fixed or set in stone. And I'm not a big fan of those either because they rarely produce a balanced budget. And I think the goal is to give our local tax recipients a balanced budget and instead of having surpluses.
Well, you may be restating something you've already said here, but what do you think is wrong with the assessor's office today?
I think we need to upgrade the professionalism in there. When I worked in the assessor's office, we had a staff of very seasoned appraisers that worked as consultants part-time. And as a new green appraiser coming out of school, I had people I could go to for training, and I feel like it's something I'd like to put back in that office, is to have some very seasoned appraisers in there that are very knowledgeable, both residential and commercial, that the appraisers can rely on to be able to discuss and to train. I also would like to train the appraisal staff to work both real and business personal property. As a tax representative around the country, I worked both. And if you're not working both, there's things that can slide between them. You know, things can be double assessed, and things can also fall by the wayside and not be taxed. So I just think we need tax appraisers that are much more knowledgeable about both real and personal property.
Flip side of that question, what do you think is right with the assessor's office today?
Well, I've worked with that office for 40 years, and actually some of the people that were my supervisors when I worked at the county are still there, so I know the personnel very well. There are some very nice people there, and they're well trained and they're well educated. I can't explain why they haven't been able to carry out their function. I think it's real important that staff be allowed to use their expertise to keep the property values in the county current. I believe we could do a better job of training, maybe specializing. I know when I worked there, I was sent to appraisal courses that were specialized in shopping centers or office buildings, and I don't think they have as much training as they should on specific types of property.
You mentioned that you worked around the country and you represented property owners. I didn't hear that you described exactly what that was. What did you do prior to running for this office?
Well, I mean, when I graduated from Oklahoma University, I went to work in the assessor's office. And then the last 42 years have been spent in business for myself. So I've seen where the tax money...
What was that business?
Well,
that was the business of representing others, correct? Okay.
Right. I had a firm. It was Burke & Associates. And in our firm, I had 28 employees. We worked, had offices in Tulsa and Houston. I was like an in-house tax department for FedEx, Kroger, Hobby Lobby, Love's, firms like that didn't have in-house departments. And so we would handle all ad valorem tax issues for them, from filing the returns to processing the bills.
So still very much part of the process, just on the private side.
Right, but as my clients, like Hobby Lobby, we had 40 stores when I started, and we were in Oklahoma and surrounding states. Today we have 900 stores. And those clients have put me in every state. Actually had me working in Canada some. So this gave me an opportunity just to see a lot of different systems and to see things that work and things that don't work.
I'm curious what endorsements you're proud to claim.
Really, I haven't been seeking any endorsements from anyone. I guess what I'd like to have is the endorsements of the voting public, and particularly after I've been in office for 4 years. I would hope that the best endorsement I would get would be an opportunity to serve Tulsa County for a term or two, and in that time to be able to train a staff to carry on that office in a more professional manner than it's being done today.
So aside from some of our things that we've already defined as far as the assessor's role, what, if you could put it in a nutshell, what do you want voters to understand about the assessor's role before they cast their vote?
That funding our local schools and funding our local services is a critical function of this office, and that's simply not being done. We have serious issues with school funding, and I think the problems we're having with that really lie at the feet of the current administration. If they had done the job properly, if they had just simply done the work that they were staffed and paid to do, we would not be facing some of the shortfalls that we're facing in our public schools. I mean, no one wants to pay more in tax, but everyone needs to pay taxes. The key is it needs to be fair and it needs to be equitable. And from the discussion we've had here today, it's pretty obvious that if your value hadn't been touched in 10 to 15 years, that you're not paying your fair share. And so I use an analogy. It's like if you and I both went shopping and we walked through the checkout line, we bought the same item, and it was a $50 item, and they charged you $70 and charged me $30, you wouldn't think that was fair. But that's a reflection of exactly how the Tulsa County tax system works today.
It's $70 today. It was $30 10 years ago.
Well, it's $70 for the guy that just bought a house, and it's $30. It should be $50 for both.
Sure.
But there's someone that's paying less than they should, and someone's being charged more than they should, and that's simply not reasonable.
We've got some time left, and I'm out of questions other than where does someone get more information about your campaign, but open mic.
Well, we have our website set up. It's Byron Burke for Tulsa County Assessor 2018, and there's information about my campaign and about some of these issues located on the website. I think that as I've gone around the county and I've spoken to people and passed out information, I've done a lot of door-to-door, and I find almost everyone that I speak with has expressed an interest in really not minding if they pay a little bit more money in taxes if it helps the teachers. I think that's pretty much countywide, that a lot of people are very interested. They're very concerned. There's concerns about education, about the number of school districts. And so there's a lot of things that need to be studied and discussed in our community. But I think by and large, if this job is done correctly and it's done fairly, that tax rates would actually drop and that new homes would pay less. I think there's a way to actually put more money in the schools and to have lower taxes on homes. And so I'm hoping I will have an opportunity after June 26th to try to implement the programs that would accomplish that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So Byron, what's your web address?
It's Byron Burke for Tulsa County Assessor 2018.
All right, good. Good to visit with you. And
Thanks
thank you
very
for
much.
making time.
Pleasure. I've always enjoyed watching your show. And pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And you can listen on KRMG at 1 o'clock on Saturdays. The Future of Real Estate. We've hit how many shows now, Stan? 1,000 shows. 20 years of doing that. And I want to thank Tulsa for being a part of it. You're shopping for a house? Go to HomeGuideTulsa.com. One address, thousands of homes. And if you'd like to talk to me personally, Daryl Baskin at the Baskin Real Estate Specialist at eXp Realty. Grab a time on my calendar at a simple calendar link, askinforbaskin.com, ASKINFORBASKIN. And we can spend some time on a quick phone call, see how we can help you with your real estate needs. I'm Daryl Baskin. Thanks for watching. Catch the other candidates here on the next episode, and we've got some more coming on Thursday. So stay tuned here on OKLiveEvents.com.